Okay, so in class today we did pages 59 to 60. And so right now we're going to go over pages 60 to 62. And they give you some directions up here, but we're going to be using what we did in class today in addition to these directions. So if I look up here at the top, it says, now it's time to try your strategies. Let's go get a highlighter. It says first to factor each of the functions and then use the strategies from the page before to find the vertex, intercepts, line of symmetry, and then to graph each parabola. Then check your work with technology. Okay, so you can look up on Desmos to see if you got it right. So step 1 for all of these, I'm going to put some steps up here in case you need them, is to factor each one first. So starting with number 5, I'm going to do the work over here. We're factoring this trinomial. What times what equals -8 and subtracts to give me -2. You got it. 4 times 2. And then which one gets the negative? Remember that your larger factor is always going to match the sign in the middle, which is negative. So my two factors, right here it asks for the factored form, are x minus 4 and x plus 2. So here's my factored form of the function. Next, I'm going to look at these two factors, and based on the work that we did in class today, we can look at this factor and this factor, and we can see what the x-intercepts are going to be. So step 2 is to get the x-intercepts, which we learned today are the opposite of the factors. So if the factor is an x minus 4, then my intercept is a positive 4, 0. And if my factor is an x plus 2, then my intercept is a -2, 0. So let's go put those two dots on the graph. So 4, 0 and -2, 0. Now that we have those two dots on there, we can get the line of symmetry. We noticed that if those are the two dots on the graph, the line of symmetry is the middle of the two intercepts. So I can look on the graph and see where the middle is, or I can actually just take the middle right here of these two numbers. So how do I get the middle? It's your x1 plus your x2 divided in half. So it's the 4 plus the -2, which is 2. 2 divided by 2 is just 1. Well, you probably could have looked at the graph and seen that the middle goes right through 1. And so your line of symmetry is 4 plus -2 over 2, or just 1. Okay, next it wants us to get the vertex. To get the vertex, I already have part of it. I have the x value that came right here from the line of symmetry. That's already my x of the vertex. To get the other part of the vertex, I need to do some plugging in. I need to find f of 1 using this original function and plugging in that 1. 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 8 is 1 minus 2 minus 8 is 1 minus 10 is -9. So my vertex, I already had the x is 1. Now I have the y of -9. I had to put in the input to get the output. So my vertex is at 1, -9. So let's go put that dot on the graph. Write 1 down 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's going to go right off my graph because I didn't put my graph up high enough. And then the y-intercept, we talked about this today on that initial sheet. My C value is my y-intercept. So that's going to be at 0, -8. And so to get the y-intercept, we just look at the C value of the function. Okay, so let's go put a dot at 0, -8. And we know symmetrically that if there's a dot right there on the parabola, there's also a dot on the other side in the same space. Okay, so go connect it. Here's my parabola from my vertex right here, and then from my vertex right here, going up. And there she is. What's my vertical stretch? Notice there's an invisible 1 in front of here. It's just a 1, the same as the parent stretch. Okay. Okay, so let's look at our steps again here real quick. Number 1, we had to factor. Number 2, we had to get the x-intercepts by using the opposite of the factors. Number 3, we got the line of symmetry by finding the middle of those intercepts. Number 4, we knew that x equaled 1 of the vertex, so we used that to plug in to get y. Here's my input of 1 to get my output of -9. And then to do the y-intercept, I just used the c value of the function. Okay, so we're going to go follow all of these steps in each of these last 3 problems to make sure we can graph it. This next one, do you see how it has a negative out in front? So we're going to actually take the GCF out of that. Let's see, I want to be able to squeeze this in. Hang on. So first, I'm going to take a -1 out front. That's my greatest common factor, which is going to leave me x squared plus 6x plus 5. I just factored a -1 out of everything. And now that's my greatest common factor. Now that I took out this GCF of -1, now I still need to continue factoring the back. So we're going to get 2 factors back there. So here I go doing the x factors. What times what equals 5 and adds up to 6? You got it. 5 times 1 equals 5 and adds up to 6. So my first factor is x plus 5, and my second factor is x plus 1. This is my factored form of the equation. I had to get a GCF out front and then the full factors in the back. Okay, now that I have the factors, that was step 1. Step 2 is to get the x-intercepts. Well, we know that the x-intercepts are the opposite of the factors from graphing it on Desmos today. So we know that the x-intercept is going to be at -5, 0 and at -1, 0, the opposite of those factors. So go put your dots at -5, 0, and -1, 0. Now we're going to look for the line of symmetry in the middle of those two. Now you can probably look at the graph and see what the middle of those is, but we can do the algebra. We can say -5 plus -1, or -6/2. My line of symmetry is x equals -3, and that might be exactly what you were thinking right here down the middle. There's my line of symmetry. Now I'm going for the vertex. I already have part of the vertex from this line of symmetry. There's my x. So I need to go plug in a -3 to my original function. So that's this guy way up here. I'm plugging in a -3 to get the output. That's going to give me the output, or the y value of my vertex. I have the h, I need the k. So here I go. It's -9 plus 18 minus 5. That's -9 plus 13, or 4. Feel free to use a calculator on any of those parts if any of those you needed support on. So my vertex is -3, 4, and that came from plugging in. So let's go put that on the graph. -3 up 1, 2, 3, 4. And then my y-intercept is just the c value of the graph. That's this -5 right here. So go put a dot at 0, -5. And we know that there's going to be one on the other side in the same place as well because of the symmetry. And then our vertical stretch this time is still just 1, or the parent stretch. Even though it's a -1, negative is the orientation, just meaning it's upside down. So we go ahead and we know it's going to be out 1, down 1, like that. Go ahead and connect your graph. And that line of symmetry is right through -3. Okay, so we did step 1, factor. Step 2, get the intercepts. Step 3, get the middle of that, the line of symmetry. Use that as the x of your vertex. Plug in to get the y, and look at the c value for the y-intercept. All right, let's go do the same 5 steps up here at the top of this guy. Oh, it looks like it was down here. F of x equals 2x squared. Let's rewrite it up here. Minus 12x plus 16. That was at the bottom of that other page, sorry. Okay, so factored form. First step, always look for a GCF. I can take out a 2. So taking out a 2 leaves me x squared minus 6x plus 8. And then we factor the back. What times what equals 8? And adds up to 6. They're both going to be negative. So my factored form has the GCF out front, the x minus 4, and the x minus 2. There's my factored form. Next, I need the x-intercepts. I know that the x-intercepts are the opposite of my factors. So if my factors are -4 and -2, my intercepts are +4 and +2. Go put those dots on the graph at 4, 0, and 2, 0. And then what's my line of symmetry going to be in the middle of those? You got it. It's going right through 3. But what's the actual algebra that gets me that line of symmetry? We say it's the x-intercept of 4 plus the x-intercept of 2, or 6 over 2, which is just 3. And that's how we got this guy right here. So my vertex uses that 3, and now I just need to plug in to get the y value, the hk. I need the k. So here I go, plugging into this guy. Up top, we say f of 3 equals 2 times 3 squared minus 12 times 3 plus 16. (18 minus 36 plus 16). That's negative 18 plus 16. That's negative 2. So when I plug in a 3, I get an output of negative 2. Let's go put that dot on the graph. Right 3, down 2. There's my vertex. My y-intercept is the c value of the graph. So that's at 0, 16. And that's going to be way up here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I don't know, somewhere like way up here. It's not even on our graph. So if I go connect this, notice the stretch of 2, out 1, up 2. If I go connect this, it's going to go up way steep, touching somewhere up there. My vertical stretch is 2 because of the GCF of 2 that we pulled out. All right, last one. Okay, factored form. Now looking at this one, can we divide a 2 out of everything? Nope. There's no GCF. So you guys have a couple options here. You can do X and T factoring, if that's the one you were comfortable with, or you can do backward box. Let's try backwards box. You can do XT factoring and then just check your answer. So we've got a negative 2x squared here, and we've got a 3 here. So we're asking ourselves, what times what makes negative 2x squared? So we know it's going to be 2x and x. Which side's going to have the negative, we'll decide in a second. And we know this has to be a 3 and a 1. Which side should it go on? Let's just test one out and see. Well, 3 times 2, that would make 6x. 1 times x, that would make 1x. 6 minus 1 is the 5 we want in the middle. We want it to be negative. So what if we put a negative here? Negative 2 times 3, that's going to make this negative 6x. 1 times 3 is positive. Okay, that works out. 6x plus 1x, that's going to make my negative 5x middle term. So here's my two factors. X plus 3 and negative 2x plus 1. Okay, so now to go get the opposites for the intercepts. My intercept is going to be at negative 3, 0. And what the heck is the opposite of this? Well, the positive one at the back becomes a negative 1. And then we divide by the front, negative 2. What's negative 1 divided by 2? It's 1/2. So that back factor is equal to 1/2. How are we supposed to know that? Maybe you put it in Desmos already and could see it was touching at 1/2. So go put a dot at 1/2 and negative 3, 0. So what's going to be the middle of 1/2 and negative 3, 0? Well, let's add it. Negative 3 plus 0.5 That gives us negative 2.5 divided by 2. That's negative 1.25. This one is not pretty, right? So negative 1.25, there's my axis of symmetry. And that's the x of my vertex. Now I have to go plug that in back into the original equation. So I want you to take a minute to go plug this into a Desmos calculator, pause the video, and go plug it in. You got it. It's 6.25. So 6.25, negative 1, 6.25 is going to be up here somewhere as your vertex. And then you're going to go ahead and connect it downwards. Why is it an upside down parabola? Because it's got this negative right up here out front. Okay, so what's my y-intercept of this graph? 0, 3. And then my vertical stretch is a 2. The orientation is upside down. All right.